Okay, so welcome. I'm Alfred Lambremont Webre, and we're here with Ole Dammegard coming to us from Spain, and we're live streaming on Facebook with a forbidden person on Facebook, apparently, because I just took advantage of the feature that Zoom has, where you can stream live on any page that you have, or any group, or on your profile. And I'm streaming on my Facebook page, been doing this now for about 2 weeks. And all I had to do was type in the name Ole Dammegard, and Facebook instantly came back with a notice. Today is Wednesday, January 29th, that my post saying that Ole Dammegard would be here on January 29th, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time, was, quote, against community standards. All I said is that Ole Dammegard would give an update, and that that I'm prohibited from posting in groups that I do not administer on Facebook until April 24th, 2020. I mean, it's mind-boggling, the degree of interference. I mean, with Facebook, just Ole Dammegard giving an update is against community standards. Now, I have had one Ole Dammegard video taken off of my YouTube channel, and they've constituted that a warning. They said this is a warning, it's a permanent warning on my YouTube channel, Exopolitics TV. And that was a program that Ole and I did together, entitled that there was apparently a false flag operation planned for Washington, D.C. And that's up there as a warning, so that and it was taken off without any warning to me, just one day. And if that happens again, you know, my channel goes down for a week or something. Well, what is your comment about this?
I mean, what can I say? I get shut down right, left, and center. And the reason for that is because I'm a hate speecher. Okay, that is the wording, bullying and hate speech. In Swedish, it's hatretorik. And I mean, I as soon as I stick my head out, boom, they try to shut it down. So it's like, I don't know about you, Alfred, but I don't feel so hateful. I mean, there's very little I hate in life except for censorship. And so what can you say? I mean, apparently there's a reason for it. And I think it's wonderful because it becomes so obvious that something very bizarre is going on. So I say, welcome to 1984 in a modern version. This is the censorship that George Orwell and these guys were talking about back then, where they turn everything upside down and where freedom is actually the opposite. Everything is upside down, except us, Alfred, I would say. So, well, indirectly, it's a compliment that we're making a difference, because otherwise they wouldn't be worried. And I also think it's fantastic because it's like when I go on tour, I do a lot of tours. And I mean, I'm not pulling a lot of big crowds. I'm going into people's homes because that is where we are untouched, because if I go public, for instance, in Sweden, this fortress of freedom and democracy, I think not anymore. It's like I get shut down and I mean I've never ever seen anyone else be shut down in Sweden. Like one time a few months ago or 6 months ago, so we were that was the first time I got shut down in Sweden, and we heard on the radio, national radio, that controversial speaker has been stopped in Karlstad. And I was like, what? I wonder who that is. I didn't understand that it was me. I've never seen myself as controversial, but there again. And so since that time, I mean, the latest tour we did was just ridiculous. I mean, I can go through a little bit of it, but that was with different types of attacks and death threats and you name it. But the good news is we were meeting in people's home with a gathering between 25 and 100 people. How can that be a threat to anyone with any kind of real power? It just shows you they're freaking out. Otherwise, we would be a joke. A gathering of 25 people, if it's not like the super high supreme commanders of some underground resistance movement, otherwise it would be a joke. I mean, most of these people are housewives and farmers and just people with a good open mind and a beautiful heart. I mean, how can that be a threat? But apparently it is, so I think that is great news.
That's just amazing. You know, and so that's just to give a context for today's program, so that people who are tuning in understand the context of the truth that Ole Dammegard brings to our programming and to the table, where any of these so-called governments or authorities are so threatened. And it doesn't matter what country it is. In North America, the United States is now led by individuals that I call government goons, because they are stopping the First Amendment. I'm a First Amendment lawyer and have been since the 1960s, and it's extraordinary. I know that people support the current administration, but they must be blind as to the First Amendment situation. And it's true in Sweden, as Ole says. We've been carrying out interviews there of women who are persecuted by the authorities. There's a tremendous institutional misogyny, hatred of women, and institutional pedophilia in Sweden that is astounding. It's just astounding, and it's hidden behind the veneer of the goodness of Swedish socialism and Swedish society. And it's just, you know, to take that famous, something is rotten in Sweden, it's not Denmark. Something is rotten in Sweden. Well, that's just to begin. Now, we're very glad that you've joined us here. And I know that we haven't had a chance to talk about the update that you're bringing to us today, Ole. So please tell us.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm not really sure what to talk about because there's so much going on. I want to say that I'm very grateful to you, Alfred, because I do not travel anywhere without the paper that you wrote down to me, which is like a legal document saying that if I'm stopped at a border or by whoever, that I am under the free speech constitution, these and that and those. And you know, all of that, you really put together like a legal text for me, including my photo and your signature and everything, so that when it makes me feel more safe, because it's so bizarre that I think an individual like me had to fear crossing borders. I mean, what the hell is going on if that is the case? You know, I'm not a bank robber, I'm not a serial rapist. I'm just trying to find out and help the world the best I can to lift this madness, you know, and stop it. So, and unfortunately, not only Sweden, it's the same in more or less all the Western countries, NATO countries. It's the exact same agenda being played out. But Sweden is becoming really extreme, which I find very interesting, because then Sweden is showing you the way, or showing us the way they're pushing it. So if they manage to do it in Sweden, it will just follow, the other countries will follow. And at the moment, Sweden is under heavier attack. I could never imagine what is going on there. It's like, officially, there's been more than 250 bombings within the last 6 months, I believe. But that's the official numbers. I totally doubt them. Statistics, I tell you, is one of the weapons of the global so-called elite. I call them something else. But the whole agenda that is being played out in Sweden really shows you the brutal force that is being used against normal people, and where they turn it totally upside down so that they use these organizations. I managed to identify the organizations that are carrying this out, which I suspect are totally connected to Gladio, NATO operations, and where Sweden is being taken over from the enemy inside, from within. We're talking deep state, with massive sellouts in government positions and in military and police and secret intelligence agencies, totally selling out the country and trying to take over like with a military coup, but slowly, they don't dare to do it overnight. First, they build up this whole threat image of what is going on in Sweden. So if you ask a normal Swede, they would say that, oh my God, mass immigration has caused that there are mass rape, gang rapes, all these violent crimes, bombings, car fires. You can't go out after 8 o'clock in the night. Women, every fourth of woman has been raped in Sweden. The Russians are standing almost at the border, just waiting to invade Sweden. I mean, that is what most people think. They're being bombarded with all of this violent, and bombings on a daily basis. But I tell you, what I see with my findings is that the ones carrying it out is the state itself, the deep state, using key people in these different organizations. And they even have names, like one is called Operation Rimfrost, which officially is there to try and stop all the gang wars and so on. But there are hardly any gang wars as far as I know. I've been in touch with gangs and they're not at war at all. But what we see is that these government authorities, they are the ones doing the bombings. They are the one. You will see that there's no target for these bombings. Mostly it's balconies being blown up. Or I don't even know what kind of weaponry they're using, because when you look at the forensic evidence, it does not look like normal explosions. It's more like aluminum glass is being destroyed. So balconies on the outsides of buildings are being totally distorted and torn apart, and windows being blown out. But there's no shown of the normal impact. You know, when you have an explosion, there's this power thrust in all different directions equally on all sides. Here we don't see that at all. So it's like totally blown out entrance, for instance, and then not a single mark on the wall next to it. I mean, and the difference between totally destroyed areas are knife sharp. I mean, the edge is perfect between no damage and total destruction. And then the more you look into where they do these things, it's more or less always empty warehouses or locations where nothing gets hurt or destroyed. The way the glass is it should be blown away from the explosion inside the building if it's outside. Here we see the exact opposite. The glass is on the outside. We've got the shoes there, the shoes that we've been talking about several times. And I know that many times I'm saying that after we started exposing these shoes, for people who don't know it, please go back to see our shows, The Soulless Shoes of Death, where these shoes are being used as a global mind control trigger connected to these traumatic events for decades, so that our subconscious in the end, almost just by when we see a shoe in the middle of all of this debris, our subconscious will go into this traumatic state, boom, boom. And this has been used all the way since the alleged Holocaust and onwards, maybe even before, when shoes, without our knowing, has become the symbol of death and the trigger of this feeling. But after I pointed this out, because now people all around the world have become aware of it, I get all of these mails from everywhere in the world connected to these type of attacks of the shoes. Now the last one, where we had this alleged plane crash outside Tehran in Iran, and the only thing except debris are shoes. There's like 5 different images of only the shoe right in the middle of the photo. But what I've said the last 6 months or so, since so many people are becoming aware of it, that it's almost becoming like a joke. And so the shoe is, I think, is losing its effect in the trigger of this traumatic state. So what I've seen is it's like they're trying to fade over to bicycles. So now you have debris lying over there and then a bicycle right in the middle. Sometimes the bicycle is even standing upside down, you know, like putting away, like when you change the chain or the wheel. I mean, when does a bomb go off and the bicycle just go whoop like this? And here we have again in Sweden also the bicycle. It's bicycle bombs, it's bicycles this, it's bicycles that. And so what I'm trying to do really as much as I can is to expose who is really doing this, because also what the government is saying, oh, we've lost control, it's out of our hands, we can't, we're drowning here in all of these alleged crimes and bombings and so on. In Sweden, Alfred, in Sweden, can you believe it? I'm even being contacted almost like on a weekly basis from people who are trying to escape from Sweden to Spain and other places. Escape, I mean, not moving, escaping. Wake me up. It's like, yeah. Anyway, so when you look at how these operations are carried out, they are military operations, I can guarantee you. And more or less always, the bombings are done with old explosives. If there's shootings, they keep talking about Kalashnikovs, which is an old classical weapon from former Eastern Bloc. Also, you have from Afghanistan, these areas during the war against Russia. But all of these weaponry arsenals, or these massive amounts of weapons, when a war is over, these guns are being bought up by arms dealers, international arms dealers, and then they're just going to the next war zone and the next war zone. So I was contacted a while ago, about 6 months, a year ago, by somebody up in the north of Sweden who was married to one of the top people in the community in that city up there. And she said that it's very strange because some months before that, that community up there, or that city up there, had received truckloads of weapons from Poland for destruction. So my question is, why could Poland not destroy their own weapons? I mean, they've got like big coal factories and steel where they melt down steel, and they've got iron steel productions. Why can't they just melt down the crap down there? Why is it being transported to Sweden for destructions? And then what type of weaponry? The exact type of weaponry that used to be in Poland. So I tell you, what are the shootings? What are the weapons that are being used? I would suggest it could very well be the weapons that were being transported up there and then spread out. You speak to the gang members, and I've got news articles. I've been in touch with many of these people and myself, and they say that key people in the police are handing out these weapons. And sometimes they hand out weapons, explosives, and they throw in a few hand grenades as an extra little yoo-hoo, as a little Christmas gift. So what is going on? They're trying to create mayhem. Mass invasion, the borders are totally open, so you have mass invasion of immigrants. They have propaganda about Sweden. The authorities have like all of these, come to Sweden. You don't have to work. You don't have to do this. You will get a free house. You will get a free this. You will get a free that. It's on government websites that have now been criticized. Why the hell are you, giving this false image of Sweden, which are saying, come here, come here, come here, when Sweden already has so many problems with in the invasion of immigrants, especially since a lot of the people that are being allowed in are people with a criminal background. At least that is what I've been told, or the official story says. So you got a lot of people coming in with a criminal background. You have the police handing out weapons and explosives and machine guns. You have also the government is cutting down on the police. They have taken down the military service so that the military is really weak. And so you have this whole imbalance where the problems are growing and the authorities like the police and so on have less and less power to stop it. At the same time, also, the authorities are being forced to do more and more paperwork. You know, the police have to fill in all kinds. So 50% of the time a police is on service, on duty, they're filling out paperwork. So they have no time to deal with crimes. So the scale of unsolved crimes are going like, whoa, murders, yeah, maybe they will look at that, but you know, like a normal burglary or hardly a rape, I mean, that it's just overwhelming for them. So we're creating a problem here, if you haven't noticed, a problem. And then at the same time, the terms for normal Swedish people and immigrants are really unequal. It's really not fair. So somebody coming into Sweden will be given, for instance, a big apartment, like a big luxury apartment, while the normal Swedish citizen will be given absolutely the minimum, creating this frustration and irritation and anger among people saying, why? I've been paying tax my whole life, and then this. And then they start pointing towards the immigrants, but it's not the immigrants that have decided the rules. It's not the immigrants that you can't blame them. I mean, like in the late 1800s, Sweden was one of the countries where most people immigrated into the US because of famine and difficult times. So we left it, oh, I'm not Swedish, but anyway, they left it for trying to find a better life for their families. I mean, who can blame people for doing that? We're all trying to find the best life for ourselves and our families and loved ones. And so here, NATO first bombed the crap out of these countries that are totally innocent, like Syria, Libya, these countries. They demonize them. They go for the central banks and other stuff in these countries, demonize them first, bomb the crap out on them afterwards, creating these masses of refugees coming up through Europe, creating chaos. And when you see, while the people are trying to travel further and further north, they're being guided by George Soros, who has even printed pamphlets on how to be, you know, the best ways of a refugee to get asylum here or do that or this and that. Then they come to countries like Sweden, and you would think that the government of Sweden would, okay, we're having a massive problem here, apparently, with multicultural difficulties. So how can we calm down the situation? Let's start letting them build mosques everywhere with prayer towers and all of this. What does that do? That creates absolute frustration and anger among the Swedish people. It's not that they're racist, it's just because they really like their country the way it was, with their traditions, with their culture, just like the Afghanis love Afghanistan the way it was before it was destroyed. Or Pakistan didn't want the Afghanis to come there. The Iranians didn't want Pakistanis to come there. Do you know, like everybody likes their country and their traditions, and they just want to be left alone in peace and harmony. So here, all of these things stirring the thing up, and you're not allowed to criticize. If you criticize anything, it's almost at a point now where it's being called hate speech, and where people are getting sued for just, you know, speaking out or sharing stuff on Facebook. Really, people are being sued for sharing statistics about rape or crimes and these stuff. In Sweden. Then you have, I'm sorry if I'm ranting on, Alfred, but it's like unbelievable. Then you have, for instance, there's an organization, government organization called RFSL, yeah. And that is for people with a different sexual, like bisexual or gay or whatever. And this is for immigrants who are coming to Sweden. So they're getting a pamphlet. I will send it to you, Alfred, but I tell you, hold your hat, because it is what is in that. Please remember, these are people that are coming from countries with an Islamic faith, a Muslim background, where women are being covered out of respect, and so on. It's that culture, good or bad. I'm saying that is where they come from. And I remember when I smuggled out some people in the mid-'80s from Iran to Sweden. And my mother came and met us when I came with my first friend out. We managed to go up, to get out from Iran through former Russia into East Germany, and then up to Sweden, through East Germany up to Sweden, where first they wanted to deport him. We managed to stop that through some contacts I had with the local police from the city where I used to be a journalist, and now he's a heart specialist in Sweden. But we managed to get some of his family members out. Two of them went to Canada as well. So I think it was 7 or 8 in total. Beautiful people, but we smuggled them out. So I totally lost the thread here. I lost the thread, Alfred. But yes, sorry. Anyway, sorry, let me just continue. So the thing was that the first time my mother met my friend, who is Iranian, and Iranian is the most Western country in the Middle East, from there on, when you compare to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and so much more modern from under the Shah. And so my mother came to greet him, and what she did was she went straight up to him and gave him a hug. And so I asked him afterwards, how did it feel to meet my mother and get such a beautiful hug? And he said, somewhere between shock and death. And this was a very well-educated young man who was into Voltaire and Sartre and all of these things, very open-minded, I thought. And then a hug from my mother was somewhere between shock and death. That is where they come from, where you're not allowed to sit next to a woman that you don't know on the bus, or if you're not family, or, And so we forward here to Sweden. So how do they welcome these people? Young men, and so mostly young men that are coming. Wouldn't you think that maybe it would be good to say, listen, when you come to Sweden, maybe you've heard that Swedish women are really, into sex and so on, but please understand this is not really the case. It's good if you can treat them with respect, and this way, and this way, and this way, and take the tradition the way it is when you come in. That, I would say, is a way of calming the waves and opening a door for communication and understanding between people from different backgrounds and traditions and so on. What they're given when they enter, oh my God, I'm going to send you this. I normally don't get shocked, Alfred, but holy cow, it's like you have, just think that maybe you've never even seen a naked woman. You haven't seen your mother naked. You haven't, and then you come to a country like that. Okay, so there's like illustrations, drawn illustrations, like of a threesome, where it's like grandfather, a man in a wheelchair, and a transsexual. You got like a mother that says to her daughter, no, I don't want to have sex now, you have to wait. A mother is saying to it, you have like, and most of the men in these illustrations are Muslim looking. So you got like gay sex and with people in wheelchairs and with transgender and double, all of it. And also very close illustrations of the sexual organs what words are dirty words in Sweden, good to know, you know, and also the very last image is a shoe. I mean, I'm speechless. I'm really speechless, but it just shows you the enemy is within. The enemy is within. They're trying to destroy the nation, create chaos, and out of chaos, they will try and get, you know, like a civil war going so that they can move in with martial law. They've already started because of all of this violence, all of these bombings. Now there's, I believe now 3 cities, Malmö, Gothenburg, and Stockholm, and Uppsala, that's 4, I believe now, have areas where they're drones with cameras constantly circling. And at the very same time that that was started because of problem, reaction, solution, the police in Turkey very proudly have shown that they have drones equipped with machine guns. I mean,
right. You know, and structurally, this actually goes back to a structural plan that was financed by the Rothschilds. It's called the Kalergi Plan, and I'm looking at an article that says Kalergi Plan, the covert scheme to destroy Europe from within, the genocidal Kalergi Plan to destroy the indigenous nations and peoples of Europe. And it started around the 1920s when a Freemason count, Richard von Coudenhove Kalergi, wrote a book that set out his plan to do exactly what you just said. It was then financed by the Rothschilds, and they've implemented the plan now. It's being carried out in Western Europe to varying degrees, but it looks like in Sweden and Norway, because we have refugees from Norway here in Canada who have fled Norway because the Norwegian government are about to seize their children based on these false premises of the Kalergi Plan. So what you're describing is a New World Order plan that was conceived, really, if you go back to the Zionist Congress at the end of toward the end of the 19th century, then it bubbled up to the 1920s in the Kalergi Plan, financed by the Rothschilds and manifested now at the beginning of the 21st century. And that is the Kalergi Plan to destroy Western Europe. At the same time, the Zionists went through Russia and into China. Mao Zedong was a covert agent of Skull and Bones at Yale, and the whole communist revolution is part of a Zionist plan also. And now they are moving into an equivalent sort of sociological genocide. If you're looking at what they're doing to the Uyghurs, to the Muslims in China. So there are these great movements on the planet to eradicate indigenous human cultures, the Europeans, the Muslims, the Uyghurs, anything. The indigenous have been largely eradicated here in North America, North and South America. It's you know, through this impulse, and you're documenting now what has happened in Sweden, and through a case that you and I have done through the woman Anna, and our son, we've done a number of Exopolitics TV follow-ups on that, and it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. But all of this comes out of the Zionist movement, which is behind the false flag movement, because it was the Zionist movement that was behind the JFK assassination, 9/11, all of the false flags that you and I have been able to cover over, all of these years of broadcasting. So I just wanted to give that feedback. And so back over to you.
There's an audiobook on YouTube of The Eldest of Zion. And just listen the first 5 minutes of that audiobook. It describes the world today. And that's their agenda, how to do this. So, and I thought it was really interesting what you said about the revolution in the Russian Revolution. That was not a communist revolution as such. Lenin was in Stockholm on his way to Russia where he met up with different bankers in Sweden. One of these banker families was a banker family called Aschberg. And he was part of funding the whole Russian Revolution, where was a New World Order overtake. Also, it's like the Swedish Prime Minister was officially assassinated later. His family members, some of them were part of this Russian revolution and the communist creation of the Communist Party in Russia, as well as part of the creation of the Nazi whole empire and so on, where his own family members were there. Also in the Kim Philby's spy cell in England. It's like bizarre. But anyway, this Aschberg family, I think is really interesting because the organization that is stopping me in Sweden now is an organization called Expo. And that organization is said there to work for free speech and freedom and all of these beautiful things. It is the exact opposite. And so who is one of the key people in that? It's a man called Robert Aschberg, who is the grandson of the banker who financed or was part of financing the Russian Revolution. And he has been key in the whole witch hunt on a patsy after the Olof Palme assassination or the alleged assassination, as well as his brother, Richard Aschberg, have been two of the key people who have been leading this red herring in totally the wrong direction, away from the real truth. They are the ones. And now Expo, wake me up. Now Expo is starting to educate politicians, Swedish government, of people elected by the public. Well, at least that's what we're being told. Expo, as this organization, are going to educate the politicians on how to speak about immigrants and immigrations. What? What? And this Expo, as far as I've been informed, are funded by George, wait for it, Soros. So, it just goes hand in hand, the same. Rothschilds are always in the background. Who are the ones pumping out the images of these alleged shoes, of these amazing shoes that appear everywhere? It's Associated Press and Reuters, both of them controlled by Rothschilds. It's the same. So, Alfred, I would very much like to take you on a little memory lane, or what do you call it, a walk on memory lane, back to, I think, the last show we did, where you were so amazing when I went out with a warning about what I believe to be a European version of 9/11. And you were there so fast and helped me spread the word. I do not think that we've done an interview since then, have we? I don't think so.
No, that was the last interview that we did. Yeah.
So I would very much like to just tell the audience a little bit about that, and then what actually happened afterwards. So the thing was that I've been looking very deeply into the alleged truck attack in Stockholm on the 7th of April 2017, which is a very, very advanced operation carried out right in the middle of the day on a Friday afternoon in central Stockholm. The official story says that it was an immigrant, how surprising, that got pissed off and hijacked a beer truck and then drove down a pedestrian street, killing 5 people and injuring a lot. So if true, absolutely horrible, horrible, horrible. So what I've been doing is trying to find out, is that actually what happened? Because the more I was digging into this, I and other researchers, the more weird things we found where it did not match up. It started ticking all of the boxes for, once again, the same type of advanced false flag operation. So I've been going around doing talks about this. I mean, it's not easy, I tell you, because some of the victims, especially there's one alleged victim, an 11-year-old girl called Ebba, to say anything about or questioning her death, or, you know, you will be burnt, you know. So it's not, I am not sort of like, yay, I love it, I found evidence that she wasn't killed. It's like, okay, here we go into facing the lynch mob. So I've been pointing out, and I've been over and over again saying, this did not happen the way we are being told. 0%. It was an inside job carried out by, and I've been pinpointing a lot of the individuals that were, how it was carried out, and to my best knowledge. I mean, I do not have the complete truth, but I believe that I found a lot of it. And I think this is also one of the reasons why I was shut down here on your show when you started clicking live or whatever. I mean, why I'm being censored, because they're very afraid of this. Not because of Sweden, but because I'm exposing the methods that, so once you start seeing how it's carried out in one country on one location, you will start seeing how they do it in other places as well, because it is the same people doing it. So this is also, I've done one presentation that is not shut down. I mean, amazing. It's called Terror, Are You Kidding Me? If you go on YouTube, Terror, Are You Kidding Me? Find that one. They've shut it down. They've taken it away from the Open Mind Conference website, the official one, but people are uploading it anyway. I think it was up in a, and it makes a difference, you know, when it gets shut down, because I think it was up to almost 200,000 views. Then it was shut down, then it comes up again, and then it's only like 3,000 views here, 30,000 views there, which is less credibility when you look at it. So anyway, it's up there. So one of the things that I pointed out on my last tour, I want to come back to what happened during this tour later, but was that after this alleged attack on the 7th of April 2017, there was a man called Ole Dammegard. He was the chief of security for something called Samverkan Stockholm, which is sort of the central organism of, like an octopus of the different, what do you call it, like branches, like the fire brigade, the ambulance services, the military, the police, the secret police, the hospitals, the government, all of these things. Samverkan means cooperation. And so he was the chief of security for that organization. And after this, I'm not really sure when this event took place, but he has been filmed. It looks like a TED talk almost, where he is walking around describing exactly what happened on that day. And I do not believe that this was meant to reach us. I think this was for a close group, and maybe it was leaked out by someone who felt really awful for treason, you know, that this person was part of betraying his own people. Anyway, so it leaked out, and I can send you a link here in this presentation, and it's called The Drill That Became Reality. Do you remember there's always a drill before these sort of things? And in it, he very openly says, he's walking around very proud, and he says that they had planned to have a drill called Styrbjörn on, I think, the 10th of May, but something happened, so they had to change plans. I believe that was me pointing out the Copenhagen, because the plan was to hit Denmark on the 9th of April, not the 7th. But I got such a massive, I think you helped me as well, pointing towards Denmark, showing this is where it happened, this is where they're planning it, the exact location, the exact time, everything. So I believe they had to reschedule because they often have, or always have, option 1, A, B, C, and so on, in case something happens. And you can go to crisis-solutions.com. There's something called Crisis Cloud. If it's still there, I don't know, but they had a video there where they describe in great detail how they can carry these type of things out, but they call it crisis simulation. I think not. They're the ones doing it. So anyway, in this presentation, he says that as part of this drill, he sent out an email to the key people in the different organizations 1 minute before the attack happened. I repeat, 1 minute before the attack happened. How is that possible if he was not leading it? He was the one that started the whole thing. You know, 1452, he sent out this email. He says that, and you can see it on his slides. He's showing it. And then he says, and then this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. They stopped the trains, they this. And at a time where it still could have been just an accident or somebody with a seizure or an epileptic whatever, you know, that it could be a drunk driver who had gone down the street, you know. But right away, it was a terror attack, and he shows exactly how they carried it out. So this guy, Ole Dammegard, I thought, there's one of them. There is one of them. That is one of the people who carried this thing out against Sweden. So I started tracking him down. And then with the help of some friends who were not even aware of what they stumbled across, that we started looking at his Twitter account and other things. And in his tweets, there were some very strange tweets where he was bragging. You know, often these people, their ego gets inflated and they start looking down at the rest of us like useless eaters, and, you know, so arrogant. And so anyway, no, he had been to the Swedish embassy in, I think, Ottawa, you know, with an invitation in gold like this, and also from different meetings, you know, posh meetings. And then he says, there is this, let me see here, because I started following him where he was going in Europe, and it was exactly the cities and NATO countries where many of these attacks have happened. And then he says, I'm now in Barcelona, and we have decided we have on 39 locations in 5 different countries, 5 different cities. We have now what do you call it, locked these positions. It will go down on more or less like this. It was formulated. It will happen on October 23 and 24. And I'm combining some of his tweets. October 23, 24, it would go under the name Operation Sea Eagle. And it would be a coordinated drill in Europe. And the cities that he mentioned, or the countries, were the UK, London, and Manchester. We both know these cities have been heavily attacked multiple times with alleged terror attacks. Then he said Barcelona, Spain. Also, this was exactly the dates when the Brexit referendum was going down. Okay. Then we have Barcelona, Spain, that has also been hit by terror attacks, alleged terror attacks. And that is where they have a major problem with Catalonia trying to free itself from Spain. So they have uprisings going on in Barcelona. So that's 2 out of 5 where there's a problem that could be solved by, you know, a major disaster here, where suddenly problem, reaction, solution, the military needs to come in and just take over, and you're not allowed to meet in bigger groups than 3 people. Anyone out in the streets after 6 o'clock will be shot for your security, that type of thing. Exaggerating, but not a lot. Then we had Paris, France, and Paris is where the Yellow Vest movements also have been causing major problems for the New World Order agenda. So that was 3 out of 5. Then, let me see, where was it? It was Manchester, London, Barcelona, Paris, and Rotterdam in Holland, the Netherlands. And that one I didn't understand, but then I was contacted by a naval officer, a Danish naval officer, who said that Rotterdam is actually the harbor, the mouth of Europe, where most of the food import goes through. So if you knock out Rotterdam for some reason, that could affect, I mean, within a few days, that could knock out the whole of Europe. And then in combination on his tweets, there was this Operation Sea Eagle in Sweden, where there were 2 power plants, one of them nuclear power plant, the other one I think a water power plant in Forsmark, and the other one was in Älvkarleby. All of that on the 23rd and 24th of October. And I was like, when I saw it, I thought, what? And then, oh my God, what is this? What is this? Because the way they speak, you know, he had only like 200 followers on his Twitter account. And I believe that this was totally inside conversation then between the people in the know. So I thought what they're planning is a massive mass attack on Europe, at the same time coordinated through the whole of Europe on the 23rd and 24th of October. And the duration in his tweet, it said, will be 36 hours. And on some of the websites that was going out public about this operation, but as a drill, they said it would be 1,600 people involved. So that is not some tiny little drill, but I would say, okay, so also I found out that the 21st of October was the United Nations Day. So can you imagine, Alfred, if some of these attacks were aimed at some targets that had to do with the United Nations, so that it was a military attack and the United Nations needed to defend itself? Because what we're looking at is also what the New World Order have been wanting for years, or so many years, a one world army there to control us, not to defend us. So what would be better if you suddenly had a mass attack on Europe, including the United Nations headquarters, for instance? I would very much like to, which, by the way, the plot where this building was built was donated by Rockefeller. Rockefeller is another family that just keeps popping up everywhere. So I went out, I just felt, oh my God, this was on October the 20th. So we had like 48 hours, maybe the 21st. So we had about 36 to 48 hours head start. So this is where I contacted as many radio stations as possible, you as well. And the other one was just as gracious and helpful as you were. So within hours, I mean, it was pumped out globally. And I think by the morning, I was sending out until 4 a.m. in the morning, and people were just spreading. So I think there were several 100,000 people aware of it in the morning before the 23rd. So the thing was, maybe there were only drills that were being planned. So did we see a mass number of drills being carried out in these cities and these countries? Not. There was nothing as far as I know. There was a little tiny thing in Sweden. There were a few things in Holland, but otherwise nothing. There was a truck where they said they claimed that there were aliens in it. They couldn't even get it right. You know, first it was, I can't remember, but the Chinese that turned out that they were not Chinese at all. They had all the numerology. The ferry didn't go, as far as I remember, to the correct harbor as was described, and so on. So very few, if none, of this activity. Instead, what happened was that I was contacted by a freelance journalist in Brussels. Brussels is the city where the headquarters of NATO is located. It's also where the Gladio headquarters is said to be. It is also where Mossad, as far as I've been informed, have an office in the very same building as NATO. That's very handy. And So what happened? I was contacted by this freelance journalist, and he said to me that he and some of his colleagues and also military informers had been feeling that there was this massive buildup, but they couldn't understand what was going on. And then they saw my warning. And so he said, when that went out, suddenly everything fell into place. So he said, are you aware of what's going on in Brussels right now? I said, I had no idea. He said, all defense ministers of NATO have been called to a crisis meeting in Brussels. All of them have been called to this crisis meeting in Brussels. And I was like, okay, coincidence? I don't know. Also, Vice President, what's his name, Mike Pence, I think, from the US was called back. And also the Minister of Defense was called back urgently to the US. At the very next day, all Israeli embassies was closed globally, Alfred, globally, because of a strike, they said, they wanted more pay. You know, really, do you think that the staff of Israeli embassies globally would unite and go on a global strike because of their wages? Does that sound credible to you? I think not. Something totally different was going on. And then, let me see here. Then the next day on the 24th, there was an article on a website that is used by many of these people, among others, Jens Stoltenberg, he's the former Prime Minister of Norway. I tell you, one of the key people in the massacre around Utøya and the blowing up of the government building in Norway, he and a Bilderberger, one of the key people that went after that, as a reward, in my opinion, he was given the job as chief of NATO. So he was writing an article on a website called voltairenet.org, where he says, he or someone else close to him wrote this article and said, NATO near implosion, that the whole of NATO was melting and there was this crisis meeting, they didn't know what to do. On the 25th, the day afterwards, Jens Stoltenberg opened up, had a NATO press conference, and he was speaking like this, welcome to this press conference. I mean, I don't know, maybe he speaks like that normally, but he sounded terrified, in my opinion. So, what can I say? I truly believe that because they had planned 39 attacks, I don't know if I mentioned that, 5 cities, 39 attacks were planned at the same time within a span of 36 hours. Can you imagine the mayhem that would have caused? Blamed on immigrants and ISIS and you name it, with attacks against the food import main source into Europe, creating mayhem food-wise, you know, and then all of this violence. It would be perfect for the military to move in and distribute food to the poor population, and at the same time bring in tanks while they're at it. You know, the whole Europe could have been closed down, as well as the internet saying that, oh, ISIS and all of these Muslim horrible people, look what's happened now. It was because they were communicating over Twitter, Facebook, you name it, Snapchat, using whatever. So they could just, for our security, shut the whole internet down, which they've been wanting for years, and say, for your protection, we would shut it down. We will give you a commercial type of internet where you will have to pay for the information that we totally decide, and welcome to freedom. So that would have been boom, boom, boom. So after that, I don't know about you, Alfred, but I truly believe this is what happened. And do you know what also happened? Then Donald Trump, on the 25th, I believe, went out and said, now the ISIS leader Baghdadi has been killed. We have succeeded. We have killed him. I'm sorry, Donald. That's the 4th time you managed to kill him. You know, so what's the big news? He's been dead 3 times before. I would say that was a massive diversion, freaking out and diversion. Look over here, look over here, look away from what's going on. Because otherwise, come on, what type of news is that? You killed him. I have all the other ones times you killed him, you know, and it's not the first Baghdadi. They killed the other Baghdadi several times, his predecessor, and the first alleged leader of ISIS as well. His name was, I can't remember, Wasabi or something like that. No, that's sushi thing, but a similar thing. He escaped, he was caught, then he escaped, then he was killed, then he was arrested, he was put in prison, he was wounded, then he was killed. And you know, it's like that. It's an absolute Monty Python joke once you start studying. And the latest al-Baghdadi has died now 4 times. So hallelujah for reincarnation. So after that, the only place where everything went into a standstill, and I thought, yes, we've broken through, we've broken the back of this monster. But I was too fast, because at this meeting, apparently with all the NATO defense ministers, they regrouped and they came from a different angle. So in Sweden, suddenly we had this massive attack, mass attack thing that they called gray zone problematic in Sweden, where that is sort of a destabilization of society with power cuts in the thousands, power cuts, and you know, the digital money, the what do you call, the cash card machines, what are they called? Boom, they stopped working. You had trains being blocked down. You had at the same time also bombings and shootings and gang wars and mayhem. And so let me see here. We were coming. Do you want to comment, or can I go on?
No, please continue. I mean, you're really bringing us in to what has been going on through this plan, because what's clear is that the New World Order is dead on arrival, it seems, in certain key ways. But please continue.
Okay, so let me see. I can't remember how. Yeah, about a few weeks later, I was informed by an employee, I believe, at the airport in Arlanda, which is the biggest airport in Sweden, international airport, Arlanda, northeast of Stockholm, that there were going to be a drill, and that there was going to be 150 participants, English-speaking participants, and that there were going to be a drill there, but highly secure, you know, like top secret thing. So I went out, and the more I looked into it, I felt this could very well be it. So I just, like, every time there's a drill on my Facebook page, I pump out, there's a drill, please go there. Anyone who nearby, go there the day before and when it happens, and film whoever is there. You know, when they set this whole thing up, it could be a drill for our security. It could also be the preparation of a forced flag attack. And then by filming them and making it very obvious that they're being observed and filmed, we can stop these things, because they can only carry it out in the dark. So more and more things were pointing towards that there was going to go down. I think this was on the 28th of November. I believe that was the date. So the more I looked, I was like, oh my God, here they go again. They're going to hit Terminal 5 at Arlanda Airport. I knew exactly the date. So I started pumping out and saying, please be aware, please be aware, please be aware. And this led to a whole big thing where I was being pointed out as a tinfoil hat, because suddenly on the official website of the Samverkan, it pointed out that drill was going to take place. But I had checked that website the days before. There was nothing there then. And also, when I started doing shows together with a friend, pumping out saying, please be aware, then the Swedish government came out and said, this was 2 days before we said this was going to happen, with a new anti-terror proposal for anti-terror budget and anti-terror measurements and all. You know, they always have this thing. First, they prepare it without us knowing it. Then all the budgets, everything is being prepared so that massive amounts of money can be pulled in while we're in the state of shock. And then, so they prepare, and then they just wait for the boom, and then everything, just like, you know, Patriot Act and Homeland Security, all of that was on standby when 9/11 happened. So same thing here, exactly when we started pointing it out, boom, it appeared on the website, and boom, there was this press conference. I was like, are you kidding me? Then also, Sweden is officially not part of NATO, even though I claim that Sweden was joined NATO in 1954, but not officially. But then in 1994, I believe, they signed an agreement with NATO, you know, a cooperation. We're going to be friends, we're going to be buddies, and we will do everything you say. But since we're a neutral country, we can't do it full out. So this is also the agenda now. They're trying to push Sweden into NATO so that Sweden will be one of the last countries to join, and the complete whole thing would be set. So anyway, but Sweden is part of a secret agreement called 14 Eyes. After the Second World War, there was a spy agreement alliance made called Five Eyes. It was USA, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Five Eyes. So they had a secret exchange of intelligence and all kinds of weird stuff. Then that expanded to 9 Eyes, I believe. And then there's one called 14 Eyes. And in 14 Eyes, one of the nations is Sweden. And there's especially one part of it called Swedinkt, I believe, Swedinkt, something like that. That's as part of the Swedish military, that as part of this arrangement, making Sweden part of NATO indirectly, unofficially. So we pointed out this airport, Arlanda, and guess who was having a conference like 3 miles from the airport, right there? It was NATO and Sweden. Okay, so that at the exact same time. Also, they were at a place, a military exercise area, where they shoot with cannons and stuff like that. And right at this date, when I was pointing out, they had raised the level of, so the planes couldn't fly in on a certain, they raised it so that you couldn't fly in on a low level. They also went out and said, we're going to have some you know, exercises here. So if you hear explosions and whatever, don't worry about it. That is exactly on the times when we pointed out Terminal 5, because that's the international part of this thing. So also, there was a few days, or the day before this happened, there was a drill in Singapore, okay, with, I can't remember, but there was like quite a lot of people there, English speaking, that were there training a mosque shooting and stuff. And in that mosque shooting, they were using an app, you know, all of these handy little things for your mobile. And this app was developed by, among other people, Ole Dammegard in Sweden, who is part of an organization called the 100 Zillion Cities in the world. And this is created by the Rockefeller Foundation, okay? So I tell you, resilience, that word, I believe, is a code word for real terror, because I keep bumping into that word over and over and over again when there are these type of created fires or created earthquakes or created terror attacks. Resilience is almost like the key word for them to know, okay, it's one of ours. Anyway, so he had been part of creating this app. It's run, hide, tell. You know, they used it, they've used it all over. And he was one of the people accredited for being part of the development of this whole plan And so that was being used in Singapore. And the day that we pointed out that the attack would happen at Arlanda, there was a flight from Singapore. So can you see here, 150 English-speaking people, that is about a whole plane load. So maybe that these English-speaking crisis actors were being trained in Singapore. Then the plan was to put them on a plane, fly them into the airport of Arlanda, where a terror attack would happen. Boom! How could anyone plan, you know, or be part of an attack in Sweden if they came from Singapore? Well, there you go. Anyway, so we pointed this out, me and my friend Mikael Odane, and pumping it up about this possible flag. And some people said, yeah, but this exercise had been put on the official website for a long time. We've been informed about it. There were different people in the military that said, I've known about this for a long time. Yes, true. And then I checked, you know, it's called Wayback or something like that. There's this website where you can go and check out earlier versions of websites on different dates. You know, so you can see Waze Machine or something like it's called. And sorry,
the Wayback Machine.
There you go. That's the one. So I checked, and the only update on that website where that drill was officially, that had come up on that date, on the 27th, just the day before we said the attack happened. The day after we had gone out publicly warning about this, suddenly there was an update. There had not been none since like 3-4 months earlier, none at all. There was no, you couldn't see any updates on that website. And before that, there were every week, there was 2 or 3 of them. So something was shut down in these months coming up to this whole thing. And then we pointed out, and suddenly the website was updated. So anyway, when we said this is gonna happen, that I had people, wonderful people in Sweden said, I'm gonna go out there and film for you. I'm gonna be there. So people went out there, there were 2 or 3 of them there, and absolutely nothing happened. But what happened the morning after was that there were 33 flights canceled. Interesting number, 33 flights were canceled. Now, if we look at, for instance, the attack at the Brussels airport, I have an eyewitness who was there, who saw what actually happened. And he came to that area way too early because he was nervous of flying and checking in. So he came like 3 hours early when he was not supposed to be there. He said the whole part of the airport was empty. And all the counters, the check-in counters were closed. Meaning that this is, you know, an international airport. If you have a terror attack, it will create mayhem in the traffic, unless you know about it. So you can redirect the planes beforehand and avoid the mayhem, you know. So here, the day after this alleged bomb would have gone off, there were 39 planes canceled. And so I went in, I took screenshots of it, 33, that is a lot. And then when I clicked on it the day after and went back and to see how many were canceled, it was only 10. So suddenly the canceled planes were only 10 instead of 33. And so I think that they had planned to shut down that part of the airport, you know, during all of this mayhem, redirect the traffic, and then as soon as it was back, then blah, 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 blah. But here, all of these planes were they had been canceled because of this, but then it didn't happen. So a reporter was sent out to the airport, and the reporter is standing like this saying, well, due to heavy snowfall and stormy winds, everything has been canceled, you know, the flights have been canceled. You look behind her, it's not even snowing. There's no wind, there's no storm. And a security guy that was there just by chance, he contacted us afterwards and he said he was out there, nothing was happening. And he said then the very bizarre thing happened. He said, I think he saw 5 or 9 snow plows that were coming out on the airstrip, but there was no snow, but they were driving there, and behind them were a whole long line of passenger planes. And he said, I think it's because they needed to put it in the protocols, in the papers. Yes, we went out and cleared the snow, but he said there was no snow. There was hardly any snow at all. So he saw this caravan of snowplows and followed by these big passenger planes waiting to take off. So I tell you, I really think that we were onto something. And I know that there are things that I forgot that, yeah, and also what I pointed out was that because of my experience of finding clues and so on, I said, then the next one after this in Sweden, the next attacks will be in Rotterdam or London. No, I said Amsterdam and London. It would be one of these two countries, one of these two cities. And what happened? The very next day, there was an attack in Rotterdam. A joke. I mean, a joke. You see, like there's a police forensic, somebody in jeans, sitting near a flower pot, looking at something at the ground. That was apparently a terror attack in Rotterdam. Then you had one in Amsterdam, which was a joke as well, absolute joke, where the one that was filming the whole thing, up from her window, her name was almost Ariana Grande, which was the singer at the Manchester bombing concert. That was also a joke. It's like all of these things. So that was these two. And then we had on the London Bridge, on the exact day when I pointed out London, 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 boom. And so we had this whole thing on the London Bridge, which is the second or third time the London Bridge attack has happened. So, and it was right outside a very Freemasonic building called the Fishmongers Hall, which in the old, I tell you, it's so Freemasonic, it's bizarre. And in the old days, storytellers used to meet there to make up all kinds of fairy tales. And I think this is exactly what they did this time as well. So there, it is said, it's like the whole bizarre stuff. There's this Muslim guy who has been in jail and then was released, and he was under surveillance. The authorities, if you notice, every single time they will say the security police knew about this individual, but they couldn't do anything. And then this happened. It's this, I'm sure it's the same in Canada. Oh, he was known by the police, and then this happened. What they want to is that they want to arrest on suspicion only, that you can be sentenced on suspicion only. It's Minority Report. That's the agenda they want. That's why they keep pumping it out. And anyway, so this guy's said to have jumped out and stabbed people, and you see the whole thing is just so awfully badly pulled off. The areas is cut off. The whole piece of where this action is happening, it's only the crisis actors running up and down. The guy is then killed. First, he's attacked with a fire extinguisher and a navel tooth. It's like a tooth from a very bizarre animal, very close to a unicorn. I mean, the same type of, and this with a 6-foot thing like that, attacked this guy. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, you had 4 police officers, SWAT team uniform, more or less, with no markings, that I have photos of hiding behind a wall before it even happened, about 100 yards on the other side of the wall. What were they doing there? Just waiting, I believe. Anyway, so they jumped up and shot him to death, even though he was unarmed. And then when you see the whole thing where it is being filmed and he goes down and it's very dramatic, then you see the guy who's dead. He's lying on the pavement. It's pretty cold. So you can see him reach for his coat and pull it over him. And then I have another film sequence where he's lying there dead, and then suddenly he just sits up because is it done? Did anyone say cut, or it's a wrap? Did I hear that? It's a joke, Alfred. It is a joke.
Indeed, indeed. Well, you know, I wanted to ask you at this point, because we're getting toward the end of our segment. What do you see coming up on the horizon? Do you see any developments coming up on the horizon? There's a major false flag going on now in terms of the coronavirus, which people have noted that it was even featured in the Simpson movies in the 1990s, you know, and articles have come out whereby there are a number of Western false flag companies that are involved in the creation of the coronavirus. So it is, you know, and people like Bill Gates and all of the usual suspects. But what directions do you see now in 2020, the start of the new decade, in terms, do you see any directions in false flags happening now? What are you picking up now?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful because it's just getting hilarious. It's just getting totally bizarre. And it's more and more people in the millions are becoming aware of these things. So, I mean, here we have, just like you say, Bill Gates, Melinda, once again, the foundation to save people. I think not. I mean, that is the covert word for depopulation. And the vaccines, once again, we see it's a bioweapon created. You know, the Lyme disease, that is also on the rise. And the Corona beer, what is Corona beer and lime? Is that a normal combo? Have you ever had a Corona beer? You put a piece of lime in it. It's like, yeah, right. And once again, it's not a virus that is called GPS.40/JC or something like that, which is normally the way a virus is described in scientific ways. Here we have something that really catchy, like the Zika, the Ebola, the swine flu, and now the Corona. And the Corona also means crown, so maybe I don't know, it's their masterpiece. I think absolutely not. I would say, please be aware of statistics. Do not trust statistics. In Sweden, officially, I was told that there's been 250 explosions. I've followed it very closely. I think it's about 25. And it's the same with the mass shootings in the US. I mean, my God, I follow every single one, and they're up in the thousands. I only know about like 40, 50. So it's like whoever controls media it's what they can do on a keyboard, and then enter, go online, and boom, suddenly it's true. No, it's not. It's taken out of thin air. And statistics are being used as a propaganda tool. It's a weapon. It is a weapon. And it's always, when you hear about these things, it's always far away, in the Upper Mongolia or North Korea or this and that. So how many of us can go to China and see, is it really true? And then how easy is it if you freak people out somewhere and you say, if somebody coughs at you, you can die. I mean, everybody that believes it will freak out if somebody has got a normal cold. So it's so easy to create a panic. And in China, it's very normal with the mouthpieces, these white things, because of, if it's a matter of, also in Japan, I believe, it's a matter of respect. And, like if I've got a cold, I put one on to not infect you. It's out of respect for you. But it's now turned around so that it is this mass thing. Oh my God, they have this on their face. It must be. And then you see, well, there's videos from inside, and there's people in plastic bags that looks like they're in some kind of science fiction movie. It must be true. And you see people on airports that are looking worried, maybe because their plane is delayed. I don't know. What I'm saying is, just because they say it. Now we have confirmed 4.3 million deaths. Says who? Says who? It was the same with the Ebola. It was the same. How many people, how many piles of dead body did you see, Alfred? How many? How many piles of dead when the Ebola virus came? How many? What I did on many shows was we called countries where this epidemic was said to have been. I think it was some North African country, I can't remember. We just picked a number in that area, called up and says, hello, Mr. Mungaluka Bumba. Sorry to disturb you, but how many dead bodies are you seeing in your city? Are there piles of them? He said, what do you mean? I said, officially, you are in the middle of an epidemic. He said, no, 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 the epidemic is in Nicaragua. We see it in our newspapers, it's in Nicaragua. And that's how the game is played, you know. And also, like when these epidemics around Ebola happened, who did they send there in these areas? Did they send like massive big numbers of doctors? No, they send the military. So why did they send the military? They send it there to evacuate normal people away from these areas. And I bet you every single time it's because of diamonds or gold or uranium or oil, or that is the reason. So they inject some people because vaccination is good for you with viruses. Then they're lying around looking dead. I'm sure some people dies. You have all of these horrific photos being pumped around. And then, oh my God, an epidemic in exactly that area. And look here, where is it happening in China? It is happening in this Wuhan, I think, Wuhan province, which is exactly where the 5G thing is being rolled out as well. It's combined here. They need to push this 5G agenda because once that's in action, that's when they can start really control us through 5G, artificial intelligence, and the whole smart city grid. That's then we're in bad trouble. If that happens, that is bad news, bad news, bad news. But until then, I mean, it's like I said when the Ebola was going around, send me a ticket, somebody pay me a ticket. I'll be happy to go there. I will show you around. I'm sure I'm going to meet really nice people who are very kind and not very sick. And that's the whole thing. It's propaganda. It's war through information. So, I mean, or maybe this time they've got really desperate and they're using it as a bioweapon to really kill a lot of people. In that case, horrible. But it's not a natural virus, that is for sure. And the virus patent, it goes back to 2018, I think. They also had a drill, a massive big drill on this whole thing. There's also an evaluation about this whole thing that started on January the 1st. Can you imagine? And the organization in Sweden, if you remember Samverkan, they just released on the 25th of December a little, like a commercial where they have this, you know, the people inside an elevator, and one of the guys said, what would you do if a virus suddenly was let loose inside here? What if just coughing could kill you? And there you go. That's part of the whole very nice fear porn propaganda being silently pushed into your head without you knowing it. And then they release it. So same, the same.
Right, right. Well, we definitely have to transform this, and so there's two things. One is, how can people get in touch with your work and what you're doing on an ongoing basis, and then, as always, Ole, we would like to ask you to end with a prayer to raise the vibration of those of us who are watching, and then the vibration generally of the planet, because we know that everything that goes out, you know, raises the vibration. And at this time, that's really, really needed. So tell us.
So true. I'm going to end first with a song. I'm not a singer. I can't sing, but I'm going to finish with a song and then a prayer, okay? But first, you can find me on lightonconspiracies.com. That's lightonconspiracies.com. plural.com. If anybody wants to support me, I'm like a one-man band with a fantastic small little team around me, but I'm not funded by anyone, so donations extremely appreciated. Or support me on Patreon. I got an own Patreon channel. I do what I call Ole's Daylights, where I do weekly updates about what's going on, my view on things, hopefully to you know, like help to lift the fog so that people can see clearer and clearer. I've got the multiple books on my website that I've written, and my sweetheart Kim as well has a book there, just going to the shop. And membership, my newsletter, is also one of the few ways I can finance this whole thing. We're also in the process of doing tours, and what we do is we do tours in people's home with a minimum of 25 people, and then we put together a whole long series of presentations. So anyone around the world, get in touch with us and see maybe we can arrange something where you live. Or bigger places. I mean, I'm ready for stadiums, whatever will make the difference. I used to be very scared of speaking in front of people. I met that fear. Now it's like, bring it on. Let's just do whatever is necessary. So first, I'm going to sing you a song. And this song I sang at the JFK assassination conference in Dallas when I was one of the speakers there. And I told them the story because a friend of mine, a close friend of mine called Sen Gardner, and I, we sat down one time and we thought, we want to make a song with lyrics that really describes what we feel and what we think about this. And it's very important that the wording is exactly the way so that it shows the statement and the power behind it and all of this. So I'm going to begin with that. And it goes like this. We're so tired of the bullshit, yes we are. We're so tired of the bullshit, yes we are. We're so tired of this bullshit, tired of the bullshit. We're so tired of the bullshit, yes we are. Verse 2, we're so tired of the bullshit, yes we are, and so on. So that was the first one, because that is exactly, come on you people behind these operations. Give us a break. What you're performing is absolute below anyone's dignity or professional ethics or whatever. It's crap. It is crap. It is crap and replay of crap. Come up with something new. If you want to impress us, at least use some other script than you've used again and again. And not even Hollywood can do that. You need new scripts. You need to come up with new ideas. But I'm sorry, there's not a lot of new ideas out there, since you need to stay with the old problem, reaction, solution, divide and conquer, diversion, and whatever else old Roman crap that you have inherited. Give it up. That's what I say. We've had enough. Leave us alone. If you want to kill people, go out on an island, bomb each other, rape each other, leave the kids alone, and that's about it. So I will now finish with a prayer. It goes like this. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May the light of truth overcome all darkness, so victory to that light.
Ole, thank you. Thank you so much. And I join in also, victory to that light, and Godspeed to you. And we look forward to your joining us again and bringing us up to date on your work, and let us know how we can join in it and assist you in this. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Alfred. And I just want to remind people that this interview was shut down before we even started because of hate speech and bullying. Please tell me where the hate speech was. Point it out so that I can learn, because my intention is not to be hateful. Point out where I was hateful or bullying, and I'll be happy to adjust. So that was it for me. Adios.
Very good.